couple of very big issues here tonight. A couple big-time guests, too, Peter Schweitzer and Dr. Phil, later in the show. Chapter 5 of The Democrat Party Hates America lays it all out. War on the American citizen. I went back and I looked. I've written 10 books, 3 of which address extensively immigration and citizenship, including Liberty and Tyranny, American Marxism, and The Democrat Party Hates America. Britannica defines citizenship, as I write in The Democrat Party Hates America, is in part the relationship between an individual and a state, to which the individual owes allegiance and in turn is entitled to its protection. Citizenship implies the status of freedom with accompanying responsibilities. Citizens have certain rights, duties, and responsibilities that are defined or only partially extended to aliens and other non-citizens residing in a country. In general, full political rights, including the right to vote and to hold public office, are predicated upon citizenship. The usual responsibilities of citizenship are allegiance, taxation, and military service. Citizenship is the most privileged form of nationality, says Britannica. So, folks, the purpose of citizenship is to unite people around common values, belief systems, principles, and so forth. That is a dominant culture, the American culture. Otherwise, a nation cannot function and ultimately fails, and that's what's happening. Can attack on the culture, the dominant culture, and allegiance to the country. Unfortunately, the ruling class, led by the Democrat Party, the media, academia, and the administrative state, do not share the public's belief in either the necessity of citizenship or the well-being of America. The late Harvard professor Samuel P. Huntington, writing in his book, Who Are We? The Challenges to America's National Identity, observed, the views of the public on issues of national unity differ significantly from those of many elites. He said these differences reflect the underlying contrast between the high levels of national pride and commitment to the nation on the part of the public and the extent to which the elites have denationalized and favored transnational and subnational identities. He wrote this 20-some years ago. The public overall is concerned with societal security, which involves the sustainability within acceptable conditions for evolution of traditional patterns of language, culture, association, and religious and national identity and custom. For many elites, these concerns are secondary in the global economy, supporting international trade and migration, strengthening international institutions, promoting American involvement abroad, and encouraging minority identities and cultures. The divide between the public and the ruling class, explains Huntington, is broad and getting broader. He wrote the differences between a patriotic public and denationalized elites parallel other differences in values and philosophy. The late professor wrote, growing differences between the leaders of major institutions and the public on domestic and foreign policy issues affecting national identity form a major cultural fault line, cutting across class, denominalization, racial, regional, and ethnic distinctions. He said, in a variety of ways, the American establishment, governmental and private, has become increasingly divorced from the American people. You paying attention, Wall Street Journal? Politically, America remains a democracy because key public figures are selected through free and fair elections. But in many respects, it has become an unrepresentative democracy because on crucial issues, especially involving national identity, its leaders pass laws and implement policies contrary to the views of the American public. Concomitantly, the American people have become increasingly alienated from politics and their government. This was a Harvard professor who wasn't chosen based on DEI and didn't plagiarize. And so I write. Yet today Biden and his party are overseeing and instituting the greatest degradation of our immigration laws and system in American history. The unstated purpose is to allow as many aliens as possible to freely enter the United States virtually at will, in the face of broad public opposition. The result is mass migration from all over the world into the country without regard for who the aliens are and whether they're willing or capable of assimilation into American society. And as I wrote in Liberty and Tyranny, no society can withstand the unconstitutional mass migration of aliens from every corner of the earth. Mr. Producer, how come other TV and radio hosts don't read from their books? Because they either don't write them, or they write about themselves, or they write about other things. I write about America. I write about America. What you have here, what Aristotle observed, as I also pointed out in Liberty and Tyranny and last night, is regime change. It's what he called it. It's regime change. As reported by Fox News, President-elect Joe Biden at the time, during the Obama administration, said the U.S. benefits from a constant and unrelenting stream of immigration. And I'm quoting him. And that those of white European heritage becoming a minority in the U.S. is a source of our strength. What kind of a racist comment is that, by the way? Speaking at a White House summit on violent extremism in 2015, Biden said in part, folks like me who are Caucasian, of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority. He said 2017, but it will be soon enough. But look how they pride themselves on this, because they're telling you what they're doing. And if you dare to repeat it, then you're the bad guy. Biden said fewer than 50% of the people in America from then and on will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's a source of our strength, he said. Biden made similar comments a year earlier where he spoke to the National Association of Manufacturers on the need for immigration reform, quote, from a purely economic point of view, unquote. According to The Hill, which reported on his comments, Biden said a key to U.S. economic strength is the constant, unrelenting stream of immigrants into the country, not dribbling, significant flows, quote, unquote. Worth reading the book, folks. But to be clear, the purpose of immigration is not to change the racial or ethnic makeup of the citizens you represent, but to ensure that the citizens you represent are the foremost benefactors of immigration policies. Professor Thomas West, Hillsdale College, wrote in 1998, vindicating the founders, that although many of the nation's founders were receptive to immigration, there were important caveats. He explains that, and I quote, George Washington frequently commented on immigration and citizenship. His approach, shared by most of the founding generation, had two main features. First, America should generously welcome as equal citizens people from many nations and religions. Second, the numbers and kinds of immigrants may need to be limited with a view to the qualities of character required for democratic citizenship. Now, of course, to mention a would-be immigrant's character is to draw scorn and heckles of racism and bigotry. Nonetheless, the character of those wishing to join American society was, at one time, a paramount consideration for obvious reasons. In addition to taking into consideration the character of would-be immigrants, Washington was concerned about the number of foreigners let into the country at any given time. That is, he was concerned about assimilation, both in terms of whether the individual or group of individuals will be capable of being assimilated into the American culture, and whether the sheer numbers of immigrants would overwhelm the existing American culture, making assimilation difficult, if not impossible. Now, we're being overwhelmed of people whose characters we know nothing about. So this is how you destroy a country. Of course, this is precisely what is taking place today, and it is intentional. Biden and Democrat Party policy. Now, West points out Washington noted the problem created when too many foreigners settled at one time at one location. In a letter to Vice President John Adams, here's what Washington said. Who's going to take you through this history? If I don't do it, nobody's going to do it. Quote, the policy or advantage of immigration taking place in a body, I mean the settling of them in a body, may be much questioned. For by doing so, they retain the language, habits, and principles, good or bad, which they bring with them. Whereas by an intermixture with our people, they or their descendants get assimilated to our customs, measures, and laws. In a word, soon become one people. Thomas Jefferson questioned the, quote, present desire of America to produce rapid population by as great an importation of foreigners as possible. In doing so, he gave one of the fullest explanations of the principles shared by the founding generation, guiding their thoughts on immigration. Jefferson's point of departure was his concern for liberty. Here's what he said. Every species of government has its specific principles. Ours, perhaps, are more peculiar than those of any other in the universe. It is a composition of the freest principles of the English Constitution with others, derived from nature's right and natural reason. In other words, Jefferson was alluding to the uniqueness of the American culture and society and the principles on which it was founded, as set forth in the Declaration of Independence, the constitutional system established to undergird those principles and unique nature of America's Republican government. He said this is another reason you can't just have open borders and anybody can come in. Inasmuch as most foreigners immigrating to the United States have been marinated in other cultures and governing systems, Jefferson argued that mass migration makes it much more difficult, if not impossible, to assimilate these individuals into American culture and society. Hamilton said the same thing, and I won't bother quoting him. But America's founding fathers believed that the purpose of immigration is to benefit the existing citizenry and society, not the interests of aliens who wish to come to the United States. After all, the representatives of the people are supposed to represent the people. That's the point of representative government, not championing the interests of foreign nationals. But for the Democrat Party, as Biden essentially declared, the purpose of immigration is the fundamental transformation of America, or more specifically, the citizenry. For Biden, the only issue that matters is the racial makeup of immigrants and the speed by which their policies will change the existing majority-minority racial demographics. Because Biden is a racist. And he always has been. For the Democrat Party, immigration is also viewed as another opportunity for fundamentally transforming American society and culture. It sees new immigrants as blank slates, unattached to the nation's founding principles and history, the capitalist system and America's culture. It believes new immigrants can be more easily indoctrinated, manipulated, and persuaded by the party's advocacy of civil rights Marxism and political authoritarianism. And of course, the Democrat Party is convinced that its domination of the media, entertainment, and academia, plus its racist and segregationist propaganda, will appeal to new immigrants more effectively than to homegrown U.S. citizens. This is primarily why Biden, the Democrat Party, and the American Marxists insist on open borders and have no intention of reversing course. And he goes on for another 25 pages. I pull this book out repeatedly. I don't care if one more copy sells. I pull this book out repeatedly because it's the most important book of this election. Because the Democrat Party does hate America. Chapter after chapter, paragraph after paragraph, sentence after sentence, as you go through it, you can see its application to today, and it explains exactly what's taking place, whether it's the police state, whether it's open borders, whether it's racism, whether it's civil rights, Marxism, economic socialism. It's all right there.